Welcome back to the Journeymen series, where every season I am giving this FM save to a new person to see where we can take this journeyman. I started off this save for season 1, where we finished in third place with Indonesian side Rans Nusantara. But there was trouble on the horizon, as our two best players were looking to leave the club. So despite our season 1 success, I was passing on an extremely difficult challenge to the next person who would take on this save. Speaking of which, let's meet our inaugural journeyman. Wally, I hope you enjoyed the save here. Tell me a little bit about your background though. Let us know like when you started playing Football Manager, how long you've been playing, and kind of what you've done in Football Manager so far before we get into the save.
I'm pretty new to Football Manager. I started playing in FM 23, but I have a background. Like I played soccer my whole life, played a lot of FIFA and EAFC, but I finally got a laptop when FM 23 came out. So I really started playing it and I put in a lot of time and really started watching a lot of YouTube videos and other stuff like that. So I'm newer, but I played a lot. But also, some about me is I've never done a journeyman save. I've never played in Asia. I've actually only ever done saves in England or Scotland. So this whole experience was very new to me.
You said you done saves in England and Scotland. Like, what kind of saves were you looking at doing there?
Yeah, so since I'm new to playing, I didn't want to be too overwhelmed, and I've gotten really into it. So it's been like with Celtic, with rebuilding Manchester United, and I was actually when FM25 was supposed to come out, I was going to start with either a fourth tier Scottish team or do like a journeyman save in England, but the game kind of got delayed, so I've just continued to play my Manchester United save, trying to build through the youth academy.
Definitely taking you down into the depths of Asia
Oh
here,
yeah,
Southeast
yeah.
Asia. This is the save that I sent to you. And I will say, I didn't leave you in the best position. What were your kind of initial thoughts to receiving the save?
So it's a journeyman save, and that's kind of new to me. So I saw the Sunday League experience, half a star reputation. He has no coaching badges, which is definitely an issue. My background is in finance as well, so I went to the finances right away. And I mean, like season tickets, I think it was like $6 a season ticket. The balance isn't looking good. And there's actually was a pretty decent transfer budget and all that. But I was kind of looking through the finances, realized the way the finances are not sustainable. If you see it on the bottom, the income and expenditure, they're losing money every month and it's only going to get worse. Because of that, I changed up how I my strategy with it for transfers, signing players. Because on the surface, it maybe looks good for the finances if you look at the wage budget and the transfer budget. But if you actually dig down, the finances are really bad and they don't really have a fan base to change that easily. And I guess just the other couple things is I looked at the media predictions. I think it was 16th was the projected for the next season. Oh, I guess it
Yeah.
shows 14th there. Well, it was 16th on my end at one point, maybe after some moves I made. So,
It might have changed too
okay.
once because at this point with the squad, those two really good players are still on there.
Yeah.
So it probably went down once they actually left the club.
But if you go to the club vision, the board and supporters are definitely behind us. I think it was A minus, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so A minus for both of them. So it's in a healthy spot that way. The expectation is just not get relegated. So in that sense, it was simple in that way.
The repair the club's financial damage. So you were definitely right on with the board there and
Yeah.
continue to avoid relegation from League One. So hopefully the standards were low enough to where you had a lot of room to work with here. So talking about those star players, I did not leave you in the best possible situation to be taking over this save. So last season's player of the season, Kenshiro Daniels, refused to sign a new contract. So as you can see here, he is joining Buram United in Thailand. And then the other star player, Tavino, is currently unhappy because he wants to move to a club with a stronger squad. And he does, in his contract, have a minimum fee release clause, but he is still begging to leave for lower than that minimum fee release clause, which when I had it, I did not want to do that, but I don't know what you ended up doing.
Yeah, so two comments about that. So with Daniels, he was away on international duty when I started the save. And I actually didn't realize he was leaving because it still showed as my player and away as international duty. So I actually didn't realize that he had a pre-contract agreement. So I had him part of my plans. And then
Oh
he came back
man,
from international
no.
duty and left. No, oh no, I just lost his key player from last season. So that was kind of unexpected. And Tavino, spoiler, so I did end up letting him go. It
Okay.
was too hard with the locker room because a lot of players were really on his side for wanting to leave. And I was worried about the dynamics. If you see, there weren't, I mean, there was definitely room to go down with the dynamics, Um, so I just ended up letting it go.
It was
Yeah.
literally May 30th. What's the date today? It's 31st. It was the day before I sent it to you. He was keen to discuss his future here 2 days, and then the day before I sent it to you, and I was devastated because like, oh, I thought I was gonna send the same to you in such a great position. And then everything unraveled right before, like the day before I sent it to you. All right, so that was the save that I sent you. You have subsequently played through one season's worth of time, and then you have sent the game back to me. So this is what the game looks like after the season has ended and you've sent it back to me. Tell me maybe about some of the changes that you made. What would you like to start off with?
Easy one to talk about is staff. So if you go to the staff,
Yeah,
because I knew
let's
the
talk about
financial
staff.
situation, I terminated the loan manager, the GM, the technical director, didn't rehire those positions. I ended up getting rid of a bunch of coaches. I mean, the fitness coach too, he had only two fitness. Uh, so
Yeah,
some
the
of the coaches
coaches
were
were
pretty bad.
terrible.
Yeah, they were terrible. So I reworked the whole staff. That was one of the first things I did. And I actually made the staff cheaper. And they were missing a chief scout and a regular scout too. So I added that stuff, added under 21 coach, added under 18s. And a lot of them are in pretty affordable salaries. I tried to get a lot of players on loan, specifically from like Korea and Japan and other stuff, constantly rejected of all of those. Even players from the Indonesian leagues who were free agents and other type of stuff. A lot of the good players didn't want to sign with me, which the whole time I felt like I was missing a good number 10 in the team. And I was never able
Okay.
to actually sign one because they all didn't want to play for us.
To be
And
fair, the
yeah,
two good number 10s that we had are the
yeah,
ones that left and I left you with an unhappy one. So in fairness to that
yeah.
gaping hole in the squad, that might be on me.
And then something else to mention with the scheduling. So I don't know how it works with the Indonesian league or when you exactly sent it to me for stopping playing. Is I only had 2 weeks of preseason, and I didn't realize I only had 2 weeks as well. So I kind of was trying to sign players, simulated a little bit, and then next thing you knew, the season was kind of upon me, and I only had one preseason game. And I had a lot of players I brought in, new tactics I was trying, and that type of stuff. So I didn't really have much time in the preseason to prepare. So that stressed me out a little bit. And I didn't really have a
So
lot of time to get to know the squad. Mm-hmm.
that's really interesting. And I actually didn't know this because I'm looking at season one here. I started in July and the season ended in
Wow.
May,
You went to
but
May.
your season started in June. So
Yeah.
your season started much earlier. That's
Uh-huh.
interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. So, that was kind of difficult at the beginning when I was trying to figure everything out, especially since I didn't notice it right away. I was assuming, because based on the other saves I've done, I'd have, 2.5 months or something like that. So I wasn't really in any rush. I was just trying to get the squad in order. With the team, I knew I needed to bring in like a lot of players, which I targeted free agents. And if you want to go to the transfers and you go to the players that I brought in, I had an initial, it was like 4 players I signed on freeze right away.
So you signed, how do you pronounce this name?
Oh
Casa
man,
Basilio on a
yeah, the
free
names are going to
transfer
be
here.
brutal. Uh,
Yeah, looks like you brought him in from from another club in Indonesia.
he was one of my sixes that I played. Very, very solid player. I mean, that good tackling, good passing. Just like I played him as a defensive midfielder on support, and he was very consistent. Yeah, average rating, I guess, wasn't great. And a lot of the players, their average rating is skewed lower because when eventually we go to the schedule and look how it went, I had a really rough patch during the season, which really brought a lot of players down. But if you look at I guess, the last maybe 10 games that I had in the save, the
Mhm.
players started to really play better. So just some context there from the start.
Tommy Urich here, 34-year-old Australian. He actually looks
Yeah, so
quite good.
he's pretty good in the air, which is why I signed him. So kind of like the striker that I could bring off the bench at the end of games. He was injured for a decent amount of the season. I'd say he's like my number 2 striker. He did pretty well in game for me.
So I imagine his pace was probably a little bit higher when you signed him at the beginning of the season, but between like the 14 jumping reach, 14 strength, and 13 heading, especially at this level, and good bravery and off the ball too, I feel like he'd be an absolute beast in the air.
Yeah, I think he only scored goals with his head during the season.
Alfas Fasir here, 30-year-old Indonesian. Oh, a really good domestic player, actually. Wow, he looks
Yes.
really good. If you want to talk about
Yeah,
this guy, he looks really good.
So he actually wasn't my starter for every game because we'll get to another left back, which you have some history with, that
Wow.
ended up starting a lot of games for me and actually had a pretty good season. But if you go to his stats real quick, I think he might have led my team in assists or was pretty high in assists. Well, he had seven.
7
Yeah.
assists is super solid.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So, but only the 28 games versus some other players had more. And a lot of that was off the bench because usually, I guess, the way I play is I substitute my fullbacks every game
Mhm.
towards the end of the game because they seem to get really tired in
All right,
FM.
44. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I know, right. Yeah. So I mean, I just signed him as a depth option. 44. I thought that was pretty wild. I mean, his ratings, he had some decent ratings out there. He's a good leader. So I mean, I never intended him being like a starter or playing a ton of games for me. And he wanted to be a fringe player and pretty cheap contract, but I thought that was pretty fun.
The funny
He's
thing is, he's not even that bad. Like
I
his
know,
pace
right?
is terrible, but like his jumping reach is still good. Like he has great defensive tech. Like if I'm this good when I'm 44 years old,
Oh
then
yeah,
I've done something right in my life.
the goalie here. So I was pretty excited about him. So if you compare him, I compared him to the goalie that you had for your season.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude,
So
he's way better. Yeah.
yeah, Wayundi was your goalie. That is correct. So yeah, he's way better. So I was really excited about that too. I'm like, oh wow. So I have a really good improvement of goalie, and that can really take us to the next level this season. And I mean, in summary, I feel like he was pretty disappointing for me in goal. He was my goalie all season. I mean, if you look at
Really?
his ratings, I just couldn't really switch back to Wayundi.
Oh my God. Wait, okay, hold on. Elias
Yeah,
Mordau. While we're here, we have to talk about Elias Mordau. From the Mendiola save here. You're bringing out Elias Mordau. You got to talk about him.
yeah, exactly. So I noticed this, and I I saw he was available, and I could get him. And I remember him from the Mendiola save. So I actually played him at left back for my team too. I think
Oh
for a lot of
wow.
the
So you
season.
played him on this side. Okay.
Yeah, and he did really well. He's a very good player. I mean, he is really good athletically. So I really like that he was able to really get forward. And yeah, it was a super fun time getting. I remember right when I signed him, I was get him on a free. Yeah, he played. Yeah, look at that average rating, and that was for a pretty
I'm
bad
very
team for
proud
part of
to
the
see
season.
that average rating and
Yeah,
notice this. I'm very proud of that.
yeah. So he did so well. One of the players of the season on the team. So a couple players to mention. So there's a guy I signed from the U.S., an Indonesian player, the LA Galaxy Academy. If you want to go him, you see it right there.
Okay.
So
I'm
I was
on.
just
Oh,
scouting.
I'm regen. Look at that hair.
I know, yeah. And that could be your hair if you grow it out a little bit. Uh, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I was just scouting for Indonesian players all around the world, found this guy from the US and ended up signing and bringing him. I wonder what his potential actually is. I mean, he's 5-star, but it's for this team. But I was able to bring him in on a free, and he played pretty well for me throughout the season too.
You might have the three best left backs in
I
the
know, right?
league. Like you might have the deepest left backs in all of Indonesia.
I actually didn't want to spend any money on transfer fees, knowing the financial situation. But when we go to the schedule in a bit, you'll see I started kind of to panic with the team. So that's where I thought I had to invest in some transfer fees. Where if you see these guys are like
Okay.
July, and then kind of as I was moving on is when I signed them. And Petrama, though, if you go to it, he is going to win
Oh,
the
what a
Young
player.
Player of the Season. Yes, he's going to win the Young Player of the Season in Indonesia. And that's for playing for a team that didn't create much a lot of the season. He was a very good player for me.
And this guy is, especially for this level, this guy is absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like most people who will be watching this video like might be used to playing at a higher level and don't realize how good this guy is for the level you're playing at, which like that pace and have 14 finishing, dribbling, and first
Mm,
touch. And good heading too, actually. Like 10 jumping reach is not bad for this level, and have 13 heading is super solid.
yeah. Which what you just said right there was an adjustment for me. So I've had a little bit of help watching your saves on your channel, knowing the difference in attributes and stuff. Because especially where I'm at with my Manchester United save right now, even though I'm going with players through the academy, they're still really good. And just the level here, when I was trying to scout for players, it is so different. And you basically have to choose, one or two attributes that you want to be decent when trying to find a player. So it's such a change. And yeah, this guy was amazing, especially towards the end of the season when as a team we got into good form with those 14 goals that he had. He scored a lot of those towards the end of the season when we started playing.
14 goals, especially 21 years old. Like he's still gonna improve too and get better. Like
Oh
that's
yeah,
just super solid.
check out this guy too. I found. So he actually plays for the Zambian national team. So he's missed a lot. He missed a lot of games for me because he was on our national duty. But I really liked him to bring him on as a center back at the end of games. If I was going for a goal or defending, he's got 16 jumping reach. and 15 heading. Crossed my mind that, I should try to really figure out some really good set piece tactic and then just put this guy in the game. I will say his pace and acceleration, I did try starting him for a couple games to see if it could work. It was a disaster. He was
I
so
can
slow,
I cannot imagine trying to play a high line with like step up
which I
more
did.
with this
Yeah, I
guy.
tried to play a high line with him, and I have nightmares about it still, seeing how slow his character moved in game.
To be fair, if I was animated in game, this is probably what my physical attributes would look like, but with a significantly worse jumping reach.
I just went through positions where when I started playing games, position was weak. I signed a player in that position because, as you can see, I got rid of a lot of players as well.
Yeah.
So I had room in the squad to bring in new players. So as it went on, as I was learning about the team, it was like, oh, my defensive midfielders, I had no one good to sub on, signed one the next game. Like I needed depth strikers, brought one on. Center back, that was something I noticed we were conceding a lot of goals. So I signed like a center back or two. So that's kind of how I went about it as it went on with transfers since I had the room in the roster.
Well, this is particularly tough too, because I'm also giving you a save that you've never seen before. Players who you've never, like, you wouldn't even have seen them in the public knowledge, like on television or something. So you
Never
probably
heard
had
of
no
any of these
knowledge of the
guys. Oh yeah.
players, no knowledge of the team. And
Mm-hmm.
then the season started so much earlier. So you had not very long to figure everything out. So there's definitely a little bit of trial by fire. All right. So I see here that Tavinho left the club and
Yes.
Leopold Allen, who I think I signed Leopold Allen. So would you like to talk about some of those player sales?
So a lot of it, especially because I went on a losing streak during the save as well, and I was kind of shaky for a little bit. So if players wanted to leave, so you see Doke, I think he was a starting right back for you last season. I didn't want to
Yep.
sell him, but I did sell him because he got a transfer offer and then wanted to go to that club. So I just said, you know what,
Ah,
whatever,
yeah.
he's gone. And that's what I did with some of these players is, they wanted to move. So I just kind of let them move. And is it Satara, which he was forced out by the club? I'm pretty sure it was him, center back, right?
Okay.
So yeah, the board was forced to sell him. I also didn't want to sell him either, which that really came back to bite me because at the end of the season, I only had two good center backs and they both got hurt. So had zero center backs basically. I had that really slow, tall guy, and then I had to pull someone up
Yeah.
from the under 21s, who I will say played phenomenally, which I was really happy about because I guess in my other saves, you can tell by what I'm doing with the Manchester United save, is I really like bringing through youth prospects and that type of stuff. And I get really involved in their development and like don't delegate some of those duties. So I didn't do that at the beginning of the save, but that was kind of fun then to start integrating players from the under 18s and under 21s into the first team in the save.
I also gave you a very low reputation team, not
Mm-hmm.
just in the world, but also in Indonesia. So especially when there are players in the team who are above the level of the reputation, when a bid comes in, they're going to want to leave, and there's not a whole lot you can do about that.
And something else to mention, if you go to the finance screen and the board invested a lot of money into the club, which is how it's not negative. But at one
Yep.
point, I had 1.5 million in a transfer budget and 300,000 in wage budget left to still spend. So
Wow,
theoretically, I had all that.
1.5 million?
Yeah, 1.5 million and 300K left in payroll. And then the board
Wow, that's
slashed it.
insane.
So I actually went negative at one point. So I noticed how, the expenditure was way more than the income. So I didn't spend it all, didn't spend the wages, which was really smart because at one point during the season, I was negative and I had to work back from that just because the board one day said, our financial situation is dire. We are completely slashing everything. Which also, even though the finances are right, if you want to go to the inbox, a message I got right before they're building a new stadium.
Oh, they're building a new stadium. Oh, and that's going to cost 500,000 pounds.
Yeah, I don't know
Maybe
why they're building it. We had no
maybe
fans.
this is why they slashed your budget so that they had enough money to build a stadium.
I know. So some context also for one of the cup games, we had 10 fans at the game, home game, 10. Yeah. And another way to think about it is the average season ticket price was $6 for the whole season, or six
Yeah, it's
pounds.
like 60 pounds a game, maybe.
Yeah. So you know how long it's going to take to pay back the stadium?
Look, this is why they brought Ronaldinho in. They wanted him to
Yes.
announce their new stadium.
Yeah.
This is what's going to bring in more fans by having Ronaldinho there.
So with the schedule, as you can see, I started off pretty decent. I lost the first game, but then I won, drew, won, drew. And the thing is, at this point, because I realized I was doing one season in the save, I knew you took third. So I started to panic. And I started changing my tactics game by game just to try to get results, which was a disaster and the absolute wrong move to do. And I went into this horrific run of form once I started
Okay, so
changing my
that's here.
tactics.
So these games like here are where you were changing your tactic.
Oh, every game, basically. So
All
yeah,
right, let's. So
I
what
don't even
were
remember what
you?
I was running at
Oh,
this point.
yeah, this is different. This is almost like a Christmas tree looking tactic with
Yeah.
two people up
Oh,
top.
and yeah. If you skip a game or two, I'm running like a five in the back type formation.
This is a completely different type of tactic here too. Yeah, five at the back, three defensive mids. You were definitely experimenting a little bit.
I was, and I was just really trying to pick up results because it got bad, and then the locker room situation started getting poor. I knew the team was really missing like a creative attacker anyway, so I was like, well, let me really bunker down. If you could tell what I had 26% possession that game, so I was
Yeah,
like, I don't need the
also,
ball, I don't want the ball. Let's just try to hit teams on the counter attack, and then maybe pick up some points, get the results better, and then kind of work from there. And I just kind of downward spiraled with the tactics for a little bit. And you can see I threw some friendlies in there against like bad teams to try to boost the morale because the team was really falling apart. And then what you can see though is I started to turn things around. And I will
yeah,
say,
huge turnaround here.
and with that, so incredibly unlucky. Like I had so many offside goals. I was a better team by XG for a lot of these games. It was just so unfortunate. So if you go to the like 11-10 game that I lost 3-4, I think at that one I was up like 3-0 or maybe 3-1 at halftime and other stuff.
Oh, 3-1.
Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
up 3-1 at halftime, and then they ended up scoring that penalty at the end of the game to get the
Oh,
win.
that's devastating.
Yeah, so this is when I'm finally just starting to turn things around, and like that's how I'm losing these games. And if you go to like the 12-15 game, that loss that I had right there as well. So even these losses were just brutal. Yeah, like look at the stats on that.
Oh,
I had
the
31
offside
shots.
right there.
Yeah, I had
Oh, you
31 shots.
dominated.
Yeah, so I
I didn't
actually
even.
started. Oh, I turned the team around and we were playing well. And all the games we were winning or we were losing like this. Which with that bad run of form at the beginning of the season, this was just so disappointing. And it was extra hard just witnessing it all because I had that really poor run of form at the beginning of the season, which I think was due to a lot of my inexperience in playing a save like this. And I think the Journeyman and giving it to someone else in a YouTube video had me more short term focused instead of long term focused. I should have just
That's
stuck with
smart.
the tactic because one of my draws at the beginning of the season, I drew the team that won the league last year, 0-0, as well for one of my first games.
Oh,
So
that's better than I did because we lost
yes,
to them.
was it PSS? I think they
Yeah,
won
I
the
think
league
there's
last
this
year.
one here.
Yeah, and like I drew them
Yeah.
0-0. So I should have just really stuck with it. But with all those draws at the beginning of the season, I wasn't high up in the table like you finished.
So 14th. So well outside of the relegation zone for sure. But
Mhm.
based on how the team was looking, it definitely seems like you should have finished higher than that. So looking at the XG table here. Oh, dude, you were in eighth place for expected points position. You should have finished mid-table. That's so unlucky.
Oh. And that's including that run of form that I had in the middle of the season where I was really bad.
Yeah.
So it very frustrating season looking back, knowing if I would just could have steadied the ship better during that time, man, we could have been so much higher. Also, this doesn't include my offside goals. I'm pretty sure when XG is calculated. So I had a lot of offside goals, which wouldn't count towards XG. So my XG should have been even so much higher, which would have moved me up the table if I didn't have all of
Yeah.
those chances
Seriously.
missed as well. It was just like so many missed opportunities in this save.
You played around a little bit, but how did you end up settling on this tactic specifically?
So I tried to pull a lot of my knowledge from the Manchester United save that I'm doing. And that's where I go with the fullbacks on attack, which I've mentioned to you, I know in one of your saves, that I really like that
Yes.
because they still kind of get back and they can go forward.
A little bit of context. I have used your fullback on attacks in multiple saves now.
Yeah.
So I've used it in the Mendiola save and for the Glory Hunter series, I have used the fullbacks on attack, and they are incredibly effective. So you've cooked with that.
Yeah. And so this is information I've really learned over a few seasons of playing with my Manchester United save that it's really good for pressing and getting forward because that center midfielder on attack does create a lot and does really get into the box. So they really get into the box from it. But having them back as a number 8 helps them get back defensively as well, but they're still going forward attacking. So really attacking, it's like 3 attacking midfielders. So I try to overwhelm the center with those players. And then the fullbacks on attack, they get wide and they provide the only width of the team. And then the defensive midfielders, I have just one on support, one on defend. So one of them can kind of get forward. They kind of play off of each other, and very high tempo team is how I play, like high pressing, quick possession, that type of stuff. Which at the start of the year, I actually played with two strikers and tried to kind of play that way, but that didn't work great. And then, as you saw, I switched up formations a bunch of times, went really defensive for a while, and at the end of the season, just basically settled on that player as my striker.
So I'm looking at just some of the, if you don't mind me asking about some of the instructions you have here
Oh
that I'm
yeah,
curious
go for it.
about. So I see here attacking. Can you talk a little bit about the attacking mentality?
Yeah, so I always start games that way, and I switch it to positive usually pretty quick. But I want to get a quick jump on the other team. I guess is my thought with
Okay.
that. So I'll watch the
Yeah.
beginning of the game, like the first 5 minutes, and I'll play with it on attacking and see if we can kind of get something. And then I usually switch it to positive.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
And then I'm looking here at some of the in possession play for set pieces.
Yes. So my assistant coach would recommend that every single time. So I eventually started doing it. Is kind of part of the reason with that. Um, I have some players that could be good at set pieces. I seem to not really succeed at set pieces for a lot of the season, which is why I kind of had it switched off for a while. But I mean, theoretically, I should have been better at set pieces. So that's why I put that there. And then looking
Mhm.
at other things on the screen, definitely the quicker tempo, wanted to play fast. I mean, we weren't really an intricate possession type team anyway. So I like to get the ball more forward. And then the overlap for the fullbacks, I did that just so they can stay wide and they provide my width.
Yeah.
And like it's a narrow team, but the fullbacks are wide.
Yeah. The only question I have actually here, because all of this makes sense to me, I'm
Mhm.
curious about the fairly narrow attacking with setting. Because given that the team was so narrow already, I might have expected it to be this or this. So can you talk a little bit about the fairly narrow?
Yeah, so I have it set for the fullbacks, so the fullbacks get wide. So like in their
Okay.
individual tactics, they get wide. So I have them playing that way, but then everyone else I just want centrally and bunched up and try to overload the team, other team centrally. So that's
Okay.
why I
So
go with the fairly narrow.
fairly narrow here because you're trying to overload the middle. But
Mm-hmm.
then on the fullbacks here, oh yeah, they have cross from the byline, run wide with ball, and stay wider. So you're really having them get wide while everyone
Yep.
else is staying narrow.
Yeah.
In transition here, slow pace down for goalkeeper in possession. Given that everyone else is so so quick pace, I'm a little surprised to see that.
So for one, it drops the intensity a little bit because the players get tired really fast. And two, so often my goalie would just kick it to the other team. So if we're going to do that anyway,
Oh
we
yeah,
might as well just slow down, wait 5 seconds, and then kick it to the other team. So
gotcha. There was one of those where they're just going long. I see. Did you
yes,
have
yep.
any thought for trying to play out of the back, or since the team is so narrow, you kind of wanted to get the ball forward?
Yeah, I didn't know if we really exactly had the players to play out of the back. And early in the season, there were some goals that I gave up where we tried to play out of the back and then turned it over and type of stuff.
And then out of possession here, higher defensive line, can totally see that, definitely triggering the press.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
I actually had get stuck in on for a while, but I racked up so many cards. It was I kept getting players suspended. So
oh,
I had to turn that off.
oh, the suspension rules might be really, it might only be like two or three yellows to get
Mhm.
suspended. Yeah.
That would make sense because I was genuinely every game missing one or two players at one point for suspension.
Oh, geez.
So
Yeah, which especially in a team like this, you
yeah,
need all your best players there. Fullbacks in your team
telling
are
you,
definitely the stars of the side. I mean,
yeah, yes
three
sir.
fullbacks here being in the top, and I can
Four,
see, I feel like
because
it might sort by assists here.
yeah, the guy's the name who starts with the K. He's a fullback too. So yeah, it was all
Oh,
these.
Kurniawan here, yeah. And then your top three assisters in the team were all fullback. And
Uh-huh.
they didn't, and it doesn't even look like they played it. Well, like they came on every game, but it's not like they were starting every game too. So the fact that
Hmm.
your top three assisters were all fullbacks, they're definitely the
Yeah.
stars of the side. And yeah, so goals here looks like it came mostly from I mean, this guy up here is amazing.
Oh yeah.
And then your two attacking mids, right?
Yep. And then the next two, Jurek and Bigodi, those are both strikers.
Did you
Uh,
have anyone in the squad who you feel is like kind of a wonder kid or someone who's going to really develop to be a good player for this team?
yeah, so there's a fullback that I signed from MLS from the Galaxy Academy. So the top player there. So
Oh
definitely
yeah,
him.
Kurniawan.
Yeah. And then I wonder with that striker, with those ratings he has, he is definitely someone as well.
So, thoughts on your season as a whole, then? So, definitely, as far as how you played, you definitely played better than where you finished in the league. and then had
Hmm.
a very solid Indonesian Cup with. Kind of a summary of how you felt about the season as a whole.
So definitely a lot to learn. It was a different type of save and playing in a new league in a new country and playing as a team that is basically the lowest rated reputation in their league and kind of in the region. So I had to really adjust for the staff and the players I signed and that type of stuff. And it was just different too, doing a journeyman save because I did look for other teams, couldn't find anywhere else to go, and then also knowing that I'm giving the save to someone at the end of the season. So part of it, I felt like a responsibility to leave it better than I found it. So I need to
Yeah.
try to improve the coach, put the team in the best situation I can for the next season, which was very hard when so many players want to leave the club. Like we were looking at earlier, a lot of those veterans want to go, but I feel like there's a good young contingency in the team. And I mean, even with the short list, I did try to shortlist some players that could be potential options for the next person to kind of to help them maybe not have to do as much work right away
Yeah,
for different players to say.
you got a pretty solid short list
If you
here.
look at like some of these guys are young Indonesian players that I also highlighted as well, like the 17-17. So basically the kind of young players, if the next person wants to stay with this team or wants to try to really build something here, there's some young guys who they can try to build and kind of work towards. That was my
Yeah.
thought with some of them on there.
Yeah, you still did really good with
Thanks. Yeah.
the a little bit of a garbage can that I sent you over.
Yeah. I learned so much from the save, and it's really inspired me to take on another difficult challenge on my own here with my next save. And I'm
Any
super excited.
thoughts for what your personal next save will be?
Emily's Polish, so I was thinking about doing like a lower level Polish save as well. I mean, maybe I should look to Asia to do a save there after this. I mean, so in Japan, they have the first three leagues already licensed in the
Yeah.
game. I could do like a J3 team or even add in another database to get a J4 or J5 team and then work my way up too. So a lot of
And that's
options.
new to FM24. That's
Yeah.
new to FM24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you should have your followers leave a comment down below letting me know which team I should do for my next save.
All right, you heard him, guys.
Yeah.
For the next person, give Wally a save suggestion, and the best save suggestion will get the next save.
Yeah. Perfect.
And then on a concluding note here, so you're now passing this save on to somebody else, hopefully. What would you like to let them know about what they're going to be picking up?
I would say good luck finding another job. You might be stuck with this team, even if you don't want to be. But just keep working to get that reputation. Maybe with the new stadium, we'll have more money and you can get your coaching badges. And so the player after you can leave for a better club.
Wally, thank you so much for doing this. Very much appreciate you having you on and being the inaugural person to take on the save.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really fun. I really enjoyed the experience.
A massive thank you to Wally for being the inaugural journeyman for this save. I gave him a very tough one-season challenge here, and he really rose to the occasion. But if you would be interested in also joining in this challenge and taking over a season of this save, leave a comment below, let Wally know what his next save should be, and if you haven't already filled it out in a previous video, please fill out the Google form sheet that is in the description of this video, and I will choose the next person to take on this save. So again, thank you very much to Wally. I'm looking forward to see who the next person to take on this save will be. But until then, thank you all for watching. Hope you all are doing well and taking care of yourselves, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!